there's a set of 15 skills that I've identified, which are going to be super important. Okay, now this is the basic level skill, hands-on knowledge of payroll and compliance functions to operate independently. What does this mean? Today, what happens is lot of payroll, lot of compliance is delegated to external consultants. They will tell you what to do. They will give you the salary structure. You have to just follow it. Okay, if there's a problem, you tell them to figure it out. They'll go to the commissioner's office, settle it. Now, because of the volume of work, because of digitization, because of extensive paper trails, these things are going to become harder. You will need to know things way more hands-on. And because your workforce is scattered across, earlier, you would have people working in one location, majority of them. So you would have like jurisdictional, location specific issues. Now it could be anything, like, you have people working in from 5 different states and reporting to somebody in, let's say, Delhi. So you will need to know hands on what's happening where, right? So operating independently, capacity to operate independently is going to be very important. You cannot be hands off. You cannot blindly outsource to consultants. You can't rely on off books payments. By the way, off books payments was like a very, very popular trend, right? कुछ नहीं हो रहा है, settle कर दो, violation है, settle कर दो, right? That is what people used to say. But now increasing digitization and record keeping is reducing the scope for this activity. Government is spending massive amounts of money to collect your GST, income tax, all other data, and they use it for different purposes. GST ka registration hai, but professional tax ka nahi hai, so you'll get a notice. Like that, they are cross-pooling the data and they're running artificial intelligence tools to identify, what could be wrong, and they are identifying patterns. कि इतना GST है तो इतना ये होना चाहिए. कुछ भी ज़्यादा deviation होगा तो what will they do? They don't have to prove it. They have to just issue you a notice. Then what you have to do? If you get a notice, then you have to respond, right? So issuing a notice becomes very easy then, right? Because they will see that these are the deviations from the patterns. Let's issue notice. Okay. Now, foreign companies, we're talking about foreign companies wanting to establish base in India for the supply chain part. Now, what is happening that they are having strict conditions to under foreign laws, okay? Like Foreign Corrupt Practices Act of US or UK Bribery Act. These are very, very strict laws, and the foreign companies want to comply with it. So, unauthorized payments, bribery, all of that is not a practice they want to know about. People's job will be on the line in India and abroad if this is happening. Okay, so there is an increased focus on doing things by the book and relying on the legal provisions, not outside the book. Okay. Flexibility across industries and locations is going to be very important to avail of the best opportunities. What is flexibility? You will need to be able to operate. Like if it's factory sector, you should be able to do it. You should be able to handle if it's services sector, whether it's in Karnataka, UP, Uttarakhand, Tamil Nadu, Bihar, you should be able to handle it. Okay, like that kind of agility is very important. So big Indian conglomerates and multinationals, for example, you just look at any big company. Okay, how many offices they'll have? They'll have tons of offices. Okay, you look at the report of a listed company. You look at, for example, ITC's annual report. You will see that they'll have many factories across India. How do you look at a company like that, right? Big Indian conglomerates, Indian companies also, and foreign companies have all kinds of workspaces. There's some factory, something is a retail outlet. Then there may be a IT office. Okay, like that they will have. You must be equally competent to handle work in service sector or manufacturing and across India and in all these different kinds of setup, shop, factory, office. In fact, even on like a construction site sometimes, or a mall, or on the road. On the road means like there's a door-to-door salesman, there's a journalist, there's all of that. If you want to work with press and media houses, then what are the laws applicable to journalists, door-to-door salesmen. All of these things become important. You have to just be very alert. Multi-state competence is important. You cannot limit yourself to the state in which you currently work. It's now one thing to know here. It's not so hard to expand your knowledge. I've been teaching people, and there are patterns in the state laws also and in the central laws. So you have to pick up those patterns, and if one picks up the pattern, then applying it to different situations becomes easy. Like if you've gone to a mountain for a trek, if you've trekked like up to 2000 meters or up to 3000 meters height or 4000 meters height, there'll be some kind of requirement you need. If you're going for a 7-day trek and you're going to like 6000 meters height, you need a separate kind of requirement. But every 7000-meter trek will have, or 6000-meter trek will have some parity. There'll be some kind of specific kind of thing you will have to do. There'll be similarity of preparation, the stamina, the breathing, you will have to keep similar. Right now, that is what happens here, that if you figure out the patterns, you can work across workspaces, across industries, and across states. Now, I'll give you an example. Okay, if you work in Karnataka, for example, in the IT or IT enabled service, ITS industry, you must know about the conditions necessary to avail exemptions from Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act. So first, are you familiar with what standing orders means? In places where there's a workman, okay, different states have a different threshold, either 50 or 100, okay, that can differ. Now, if these workmen are working in your establishment, in your office, okay, there is a standardized kind of contract which is there. This contract is certified by a government authority, okay, called the Labor Commissioner, and that contract is signed by you and the employee. Why is this done? Because this kind of employee, it is believed, cannot exactly negotiate. There is an unequal bargaining power between the employees, so they cannot exactly negotiate on each term with the employer. So there is a standardized certified standing order version, which is basically a standardized contract which you sign with the company. You could understand this. You could understand this connection that I drew. So it's basically a pre-certified employment contract by statutory authority. Once it gets the certification, you have to sign that contract only. If you want to change the terms, you have to get it recertified. Okay, now in service industry, there is exemption in Karnataka, but not in other states. So in Karnataka, you can avail of it. But in other states where it's not available, what's happened? Many IT companies have started creating standing orders for the IT companies. Okay, despite working in IT industry, they will have standing orders, and you must know them, how they run. This is one example. Okay. Now, drafting skills. Okay, before this, I think one thing I've missed out is handling work for CXOs. It's really important. Okay, every single work that you do for a regular employee gets 2-3 times more complicated when you handle it for CXOs. And there are new issues to handle for CXOs. For example, uh, employment stock options. Okay, employee stock options, sweat equity, phantom stock options. These are incentives. Okay, to incentivize and retain senior level staff or CXOs or talent that you wouldn't otherwise be able to get. If you're going to work with a startup like those unicorns I spoke about, there you will have to know how to hire important talent. When a venture capital investor invests in the company, they say to the founders that keep out 20% or 30% of your stock, of your shares, for key talent, for new hires who are very talented, who will get some stock from the company as they keep working. So now you have, who makes those plans? Those plans can be made by lawyers, but HR managers have a huge say in the design of it. Okay, the broad framework you can have a lawyer say, but HR managers will identify, okay, this is what they should do for getting this. And these are of various varieties. Then there are various other situations that happen. What happens if, for example, a senior person wants to leave? Okay, a senior person wants to leave and they are saying that, I'm not going to get an alternative opportunity. I'm a very senior person. Under my employment contract, I need 3 years of pay. That is my severance compensation. I have negotiated it. It's there. Now you will have to see, can a company negotiate something like that? It's very common in the US, right? And abroad, we've heard those stories. In India, how does it work? Can you pay a director when the director is having to leave the company? Okay, or a key employee? Can you pay them like 3 years of salary if they have a 5-year employment contract? These things you have to look at. If somebody does fraud, okay, and you realize that somebody who was working, a director who was a sales manager who was working, blew up the sales reports, okay, by 20%. Turnover was exaggerated by 20% so that that person could get his incentive. After this person was later left, you figured out that there was a false reporting in sales. 20% less compensation should have been paid to this person, because if the financial reports were corrected, then how will you enforce it against them? Now this is called, how will you recover this money, because they have technically defrauded the company, right? And they have claimed additional incentive. So this is called clawback compensation. Okay, I forgot to make slides on that, but this becomes very important to deal with. Then suppose you have a senior person and he's been involved and knows everything about the company, and you want that person to leave. Now, how do you ensure that that person, doesn't, however, work with competitors, doesn't share the secrets, doesn't share the plans with somebody else, with a competitor in the market? There is a concept there called gardening leave. Okay, gardening leave is you have to implement it. How do you implement gardening leave in your company? So these are the advanced things that you need to know so that these difficult people situations can be dealt with. And where do you need to know this most of the times? If you're going to very senior positions in a Indian company which is big, but especially in, I'll tell you this, um, the startups we spoke about, the unicorns, each of those foreign companies coming to India, they also create stock option plans for, even if it's a smaller company, for their Indian employees. Okay, that's what you need to learn. Then drafting skills. What are the drafting skills that HR managers need to regularly follow? There are many contracts you will need to draft. You need to review also various kinds of manpower, supply contracts, employment contracts, consultancy agreements, vendor contracts. There will be policies that you will need to create: code of conduct, HR handbook, anti-sexual harassment policy, various other policies. There will be data security policy, leave and attendance policy, and you will have to keep tweaking these from time to time. You'll have to amend them. When you amend it, then you have to notify the employee that, hello, this is the amendment, please follow. You are requested to be aware of it. Then you have to figure out how to take their consent, because tomorrow they should not be able to say, or how to inform them appropriately, because tomorrow you realize that somebody has violated the leave and attendance policy. You initiate disciplinary proceeding, and the person says, I was never aware of this. Okay, that becomes a very big problem. Consultancy contracts, letters to employees, somebody is not performing, has gone on unauthorized leave, has used foul language, there's been insubordination, lack of performance. Before you initiate termination, you'll send letters, then you'll send notices for termination or dismissal. You can do that provided you carry out disciplinary proceedings. So various kinds of letters and notices need to be drafted. Statutory authorities will frequently keep visiting your premises, depending on, and which statutory authorities they'll be, definitely labor authorities, and depending on which sector you operate in, there could be other authorities. You're making packaged foods, then FSSAI will come. You're in the manufacturing of chemicals or something, you will have environmental authorities coming in. Okay, regularly you will always have labor authorities coming in. Okay, so labor enforcement officers, labor inspectors, they will send you some reports. After they inspect, they will say, okay, respond to this, clarify this. So those are formal responses. How do you respond to them effectively? That becomes very important. Communications to contractors. So whenever you have contract workmen, if they do something, okay, are you going to directly deal with them? Because you're not their first employer. You're the principal employer, you're not their immediate employer. So your contractor is going to deal with it. But how are you going to draft that? Some contract worker causes a loss, damage to the property. Suppose in the Wistron scenario, if there were 20 contract workers involved, how would you enforce that against the contractor? So there are letters, these are legal communications to contractors, okay? They have legal implications. Disciplinary proceedings and POSH related documentation, various daily orders, inquiry report, evidence, record of evidence, all of that. Both sides, you will have drafts from both sides, but then you'll pass those orders. So you will have to have all the documentation for that. Emails and meeting memos from time to time, like you want to extend a probationary employee, okay, or you want to discontinue them, or you want to give them a chance to perform better. So how will you document that? Because tomorrow you realize you gave somebody a chance, they didn't do well, and then you terminated them, and they say that the company has been extending my probation unlawfully. They should have regularized me, but they're trying to avoid regularization, and they go to court. Now, at that time, you need a proper document trail to say that, hello, we gave this person an opportunity and he or she didn't meet the requirements. How do you do that documentation? You cannot do it unilaterally, because then the court will say that you have done this yourself. You're the company, you can write whatever document you want. So you need consent of the employee for that. If you had given them a performance improvement plan and they consented to it, you have to show that, right? So emails and meeting memos are important to draft. These have legal implications later. Maintenance of confidentiality of company data. is very important because data is now everywhere, and HR managers can be a key resource for something like ISO, for example, ISO certification. Okay, ISO certification is a 27001 standard. Now, if your company is going to be working with international clients, okay, data protection, confidentiality, all of that is going to be really important. There's two kinds of data you have right now. Okay, there is actually three kinds. There's employee related data, okay, data of your company's employees that has separate requirements for protection. In certain scenarios there is a data protection requirement. It's not there yet, but India is going to have a personal data protection bill when you will be required to even treat employee data in a certain way, to take certain kind of consent, only share it in certain, for certain purposes. All of that's going to happen, and that's going to happen, it's going to be a big area in the next 5 years. In Europe, a similar legislation, the Indian law is based on what Europe has been doing, and this has happened already for 2 years, called the General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR. So in Europe, this has been a very big area of work for various managers and lawyers. Okay, so maintenance of confidentiality is going to be very important. And now, which kinds of data? There's employee data, there is customer related data, and there's company related plans and data. Okay, all three will be required to be treated differently from an HR manager's perspective. Okay, contract enforcement is going to be really important, especially breach of confidentiality by employees, breach of notice periods, joining competitors, soliciting somebody else. Like an employee quits, joins a competitor. An employee quits and quits with two other employees, or takes your clients away from you to somebody else. Okay, doesn't join a starts a competing business on his or her own. Okay, employee takes a loan from the company for further studies, comes back with the promise that he'll come back and work for 2 3 years more, but doesn't do that. Okay, leaves without informing. In, for example, moves to work from home without any express authorization. So these kind of situations will require HR managers as the first line of defense or offense, you can call whatever. When a labor authority comes to you, that's your first line of defense. When you're enforcing, again, you're the first line of offense. You're actually creating the documentation and using it to enforce the contract. Okay, this part I've dealt with. Then, because everything is happening remotely, digitization is increasing, there's more social media and internet penetration. There will be a lot of reputation management work, online reputation management work, that companies will have to do in house. And in house, if something comes, it's going to go to HR managers, right? You will have to deal with, okay, there's a negative Glassdoor review, our company score's gone down. What do we do about it? Somebody has written a terrible post about the company on the internet, on LinkedIn or Twitter. It's gone viral. It's not factual. There's no truth to it. It's maligning. What do you do about it? So you will use not just software to track what's happening, but legal tools to deal with it effectively and constructively. Okay, you will need to learn about civil and criminal defamation proceedings, all of that. Then, a lot of times you will have litigation happening. So if you terminate an employee, they can go to a labor court in an industry scenario. Okay, so how do you prepare a proper document trail for such termination for non-performance, disciplinary misconduct, all of that? These are different categories. Okay, there could be unauthorized leave, and then the person comes back saying, what happened to my job? I was sick. Why did you dismiss me? There could be dismissal for non-performance. There could be discharge for medical grounds. There could be various varieties of this. Each of these has a separate way to deal with, and this is what employees need to. This is what HR managers need to work on a regular basis. Remember, try to recall if there was any occasion when you were working where you had to deal with this, and recall the feelings and emotions you'd have had when you had to deal with this. You may have wanted to avoid it, not get into it. You may be afraid of the complications that could arise. These kind of things happen a lot. Being equipped, for example, to handle violence, legally equipped, okay, not like equipped with weapons, equipped with legally. How? So, like, okay, what is the system? What do I need to inform the police about? How do I get the information? Okay, this is happening now. I need to inform police authorities for this. Okay, or knowing how to get the FIR registered, immediate protection, police protection comes in, immediate police is there at the factory floor to dissipate any heated fights, all of that. will be very, very important. End-to-end administration of disciplinary proceedings. So one was the drafting part. Okay. Second is the conduct of the disciplinary proceedings. There are some technical requirements here. For example, there is like allowing both parties to complete their documentary filings, presentation of evidence, conducting the inquiry, taking all the evidence, receiving the evidence which is documentary or oral, conducting hearings in accordance with national justice, drafting your reports, presenting it to the management, showing it in court if there is a challenge. Okay, preservation of records for the future. Okay, if statutory authorities also come, then you can show. Then negotiation skills and how to obtain favorable collective bargaining settlements. If you're working in a factory or in any industry scenario, okay, you have unions there, so you will have to frequently deal with negotiating, like collective bargaining with specific recognized unions. Then you will have to have a stance for minority unions. You will have to identify if there's a problem, then how do you do a settlement, how do you negotiate with the unions to get a settlement. There can be a settlement privately, okay, or with the labor commissioner. You'll have to identify which one to use and when, and how to get us which is a better settlement for you, and how to get it done. That will require you to know the legal framework, negotiation skills, and most of the times, on negotiation works by helping other parties see what their alternative is, next best alternative, for which in this scenario you need to know the legal system very well. Then you will need to know special conditions that are applicable. So if you're having interns, trainees, apprentices, this then you will have to follow special requirements. So NEEM is what National Employability Enhancement Mission of AICTE, All India Council. So AICTE deals with that, okay, All India Council for Technical Education. Then apprentices are dealt with under the Apprenticeship Act. There were major amendments in the last few years on that. Then regular interns, okay, and apprentices not covered under Apprentices Act. All of these have a different setup, okay. Now the thing is that in certain trades, in certain businesses, you will be taking apprentices. Taking interns is a great way to sort of increase the output of the organization, get work done effectively. But their internship is always like a mix of learning and working. So there are special conditions around uh, in, around how, what kind of letters and documentation you do, what are their working conditions, what is their remuneration, do they get any social security or not. All of that becomes very different. Then what are the skills relevant in a public sector undertaking scenario? So if you are in a public sector undertaking, which can happen, okay, then you will have to deal with how to respond to RTIs. Okay, frequently you will keep getting RTIs. Sometimes there may even be public interest litigation for which information is sought from you. A disgruntled employee may file a public interest litigation. Responding to CP grams, okay, Central Public Grievance Redressal Machinery. This is so there's an online portal, PMO portal, where anybody can write uh, a request online. Okay, it looks like an RTI request, but it can be submitted online and it's forwarded to you, and then you will have to reply back to it. Okay, responding to VIP requests. If you're in a PSU, there will be a lot of interface with MLAs, senior politicians. There will be a public face for the company. So like you will have to figure out how to deal with various kinds of requests from such public officials. Okay, and politicians and parties. How do you do that effectively? Working with lawyers when there is a dispute before the labor court or a tribunal. This is going to be very, very important because from time to time you will see that a dispute has gotten escalated. अब ये court में चला गया. Who is the person who has to brief the lawyer? Company's legal team will say, boss, you give us the details. You give us all the documents. Half the time, the game will be based on the documents you have. And for that, the matter will be left to you to deal with. Right? Now, what kinds of disputes? There could be industrial dispute, which involves unions. There could be termination or retrenchment related scenarios. There could be uh, disputes before labor commissioners for social security benefits, payment of wages. There could be violence, a lot of such scenarios. Right?